Hey everybody, it's Dione. I'm back with part 2 of our identity talk, and we're talking about the orphan mentality. So last time we talked and we defined what the orphan mentality is, and it describes an inaccurate and a defeatist way of viewing God, viewing others, and viewing our own self-worth and our own value. And it's a result of thoughts and thought patterns and beliefs and eventually behaviors that are rooted in lies and untruths. The scriptures tell us in Proverbs that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So if we are to display the nature of Christ in the earth, we must acknowledge, admit, and at many times confront how we think about ourselves. And I mean how we really think about ourselves. Honestly, with all vulnerability, how do you view you? So orphan mentality, where does it all begin? I want to talk about origins of the orphan mentality, and I want to talk about the fruit that it produces and what the underlying belief systems are. So where does it begin? Usually it begins with rejection from our mother and father's house. And what I mean by that is childhood, emotional hurts, pains, wounds, dysfunctions that have not been processed with the Holy Spirit and that have not been healed. So those childhood pains and those emotional wounds, what they do, they drive us to a trap of rejection, which produces a false identity. And you may wonder why. Well, the reason why is because we were made for love. You were made to be loved. You were made to receive love. You were made to experience love in a pure way. And when that does not happen, we will find a way. We will overcompensate for that void in our soul, that void in our existence. We will overcompensate and we will look to fill that void in other ways that are not the ways that the Lord has told us to do it, and it ends up ensnaring us into bondage. Okay. And so rejection, it can be real or it can be perceived. And it's a feeling of being unwanted, unloved, cast away, abandoned, and uncared for. So if you'll remember what I talked about last time in Romans chapter 8, the scriptures tell us that we have been adopted into a family and God is our Father. And we are no longer enslaved to fear. We are not orphans, but we are sons of God. And we can cry out to our Father and call him Abba Father. But the truth is, if we do not process through our emotional wounds from our past, we will know that we're sons in our head, but it will not translate to our heart, and thus we won't be able to live out the nature of Christ in the earth. So if you look at Matthew 3:17, this is a passage where God himself speaks over Jesus after being baptized. And he said, "This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased." So the voice of what we see here is the voice of the Father spoken over the Son, expressing his love and pleasure regarding him. So again, we were made for love. God is love, okay? So now I want to transition and I want to talk about the fruit of the orphan mentality, and I want to go deeper and just uncover some of the belief systems that come from the fruit that we can see from an orphan mentality. Again, it's a defeatist mentality. It's a slave mentality. It is a disempowered mentality that keeps us living in a position and in an identity that is less than what God has said that we can live in. Okay? So, fruit. Extremely independent. You don't like to ask for help and you will not ask for help. You become very self-reliant. And what's up under that, the belief under that is I have to do everything on my own because no one was there to help me. No one was there to protect. No one was there to provide. I'm talking about in childhood in our mother and father's home. No one was there to give me identity. No one was there to nurture, to comfort. So whatever I do, whatever I get, I depend on me and nobody else. That's fruit of an orphan mentality. Also, feeling unworthy of receiving love, inability to give love, insecure about who you are, unworthy of entering God's presence or of receiving his blessing. Perfectionism, which is rooted in the fear of rejection. The perfectionism mentality, which is connected to the orphan mentality, it says, I have to work and I have to perform in order to receive love. I have to prove myself to be worthy of receiving love and acceptance from people and from God. And that, my friends, is not true. It's a lie. Self-condemnation, self-defeating thoughts, words in the mind that say, I'm not enough. I don't measure up. What if they don't accept me? I can't do XYZ. Those are defeatist thoughts that are connected with the orphan mentality. Also suspicious and distrusting, guarded and defensive. You can't trust people because you're not really sure, right? Again, you weren't protected, or you didn't feel like you had the covering of your natural father, and so you don't trust anybody. Competitive and argumentative. I have to prove who I am. That's the thought that's up under that. People that are constantly competing and comparing, they tend to be argumentative. They have no filter. They go from 0 to 1,000 instantly. No temperance. The underlying thought oftentimes is, I have to prove who I am. Why? Because the voice of the Father has not been spoken over them, and they are not settled or sure about their real identity. They can't just be a son of God. They have to act, perform, and show you and prove who they are. Also, difficulty saying no. The underlying thought for that, I want everybody to like me. I want people to accept me. It's a strong people-pleasing tendency that this can drive us to. And this is a result of coming from not having the Father-speaking identity, not having protection, nurture, and care from the childhood, okay? So I think you guys get the picture. There are many, many more, but I just wanted to share some examples. But here's the thing. That's how we arrive at an orphan mentality, but the good news is that we do not have to stay there. Our past is true. There are facts that happen, but those facts do not have to define who we are. So I encourage you today to release that false identity, to be self-aware. Go in with the Holy Spirit and ask him, Father, shine the light on the areas in my soul where I am projecting and I am producing fruit after an orphan mentality. Ask him to unravel what the lie is, what the stronghold is, and choose to come out of agreement with it so that your divine design can come forth in all of its purity, in all of its authenticity, because that is what the world needs. That is what our generation needs. Sons of God who know who they are and who know their identity and know what they're called to do. So until next time, go do that work, and I'll check back in with you next week. Bye-bye.